Hey, what is going on, guys? It's Arya back again. Today we're gonna talk about the top 5 best maps made by developing studios other than Treyarch. This list includes any maps from Exo Zombies, Infinite Warfare Zombies, and World War II Zombies. And with all that being said, let's get right into the video. Coming in at number 5, we have the Final Reich. The Final Reich is the on-disc map for World War II Zombies. The dark and gritty environment, combined with subtle appearances from Dr. Straub, gives this kind of uneasy vibe to make you feel lonely and helpless. It's very clear that the developers in Sledgehammer Studios were trying to introduce you to their version of a scary and horrifying zombies experience, so sometimes the horror element is not so subtle and very much in your face in the case of jump scares, but since launch the game has been patched and the jump scares have been toned down significantly, which is great because you want a horror themed zombies map, but you don't want the horror aspect to get in the way of gameplay and ruin the fun, so there should always be a balance between the two. The Final Reich has a good map layout. As soon as you leave the spawn room, you'll see this wide area, and if it's your first time playing this map, the moment you leave the spawn room, you'll know that this is where you're gonna develop your training skills and strategies. Not only do you have this wide open area to train the zombies, but you have this wonderful fire trap at your disposal. It can kill a full horde of zombies at any round. The cooldown time is super fast and it's cheap. It only costs 750 jolts, so it's a very good, simple yet practical strategy to get to a high round in this map. The setup process is also rather simple. You turn on the power, open up Pack-a-Punch, and get the Tesla Wonder Weapon. This is where the map really shines, is its simplicity. I can't stress this enough. The Final Reich is a really good on-disc map. If we had this map as a DLC, some people might have been disappointed because this map does lack some content in the form of side Easter eggs and other things, hence it's not higher on this list, but it is completely forgivable for a map to be this simple when it's serving as an introduction to the game mode. In addition to all of that, the game provides you with a notebook to guide you through the map and help you understand and learn the core mechanics of the game. Another thing I like about the Final Reich is the wall buys. You pretty much have every different type of weapon besides LMGs on the wall. Do you need a point gun? You can get the Type 100. Do you need a semi-automatic rifle with a decent headshot multiplier? You can get the SVD-40 or the M1 Grand. Do you need a decent assault rifle with a decent fire rate and damage? There, you can get the BAR or the STG-44. Do you just want to mess around with the sniper rifle? There, you can get the Lee Enfield. And while this might be a good thing, it does take some of the spotlight away from the mystery box. The sword is also another great addition and serves as a fun yet overpowered melee weapon. Overall, the Final Reich is a decent map and it comes in at number 5. Moving on to the number 4 spot, we have Raven the Redwoods. This was the first DLC map for Infinite Warfare Zombies. This map has a good layout and it flows very nicely. If you want to get to a certain destination in the map, it doesn't feel like you have to bunny hop for 10 minutes straight to get there, which is good since the sliding mechanic in Infinite Warfare Zombies is not very useful and you can't really slide hop continuously to get to a certain point in a map. The setup process is extremely easy. Turn on the power, open up Pack-a-Punch, and get the crossbows. Oh, and by the way, I'm not sure if these are called crossbows or harpoon guns, but for the sake of consistency, I'm just gonna call them crossbows. They're fairly easy to get and they are powerful wonder weapons. The Acid Rain is the best one of all because it can be used both as a panic weapon and a killing weapon. The Whirlwind EF5 and the Ben Franklin are pretty much the same. They're decent, but they're not as good as the Acid Rain. But the wild card is the Trapomatic. This is one of those wonder weapons that in first glance you might completely disregard because it's not a traditional wonder weapon in a sense that it's not something you just run around with and feel completely safe. This is a very tactical wonder weapon. These are akimbo crossbows. You hold one in each hand, you shoot these orange dots on the ground, they connect and pretty much create a laser trap that can kill any zombie at any round. This weapon is not for everyone, but if you're gonna go for a high round, they're very useful since the map has these tight entrances and tight corridors and you can make good use of this weapon by leading a horde of zombies behind you into a trap that you make at these entrances. This map, like any other Infinite Warfare Zombies map, has its training area. And in this map, It is the recreational area. There's a rave trap, which is a very overpowered trap in a sense that it doesn't hurt you in any way, it stops the zombies from chasing you, it kills an entire horde, and it only costs 750 points. The one big downside to this trap is that the cooldown time is really long. There have been times where I was in the 40s and I blew past at least 2 entire rounds and this thing had still not been cooled down. And as good as it is, when you really think about it, it's just a boombox and that's a trap you can just build. Speaking of buildable traps, not only do all the ones from Zombies in Spaceland are included in this map, you are introduced with 2 brand new buildable traps in the form of the mower and the balloon trap. There's not much to say about them, they're just pretty awesome additions and they're very useful in the higher rounds. The smiley is also a very good addition and it serves as more of a secondary one weapon. This weapon used to be very different at launch. It used to be so overpowered to a point where you could literally sit in a corner and hold the L2 button and you could get to an extremely high round, but they patched it very quickly and nerfed it so much that it's pretty much just a shell of what it used to be. You also had to do the entire main Easter egg in order to gain access to this weapon, but in a recent patch, Infinity Ward made it so that you could just get this weapon off the wall from the beginning for free, which makes sense since they nerfed it so much that it's not really worth doing the entire main Easter egg for. Now I'm gonna briefly go over why Rave in the Redwoods is not higher on this list. The first thing, and this is kind of a nitpick more than anything, but I feel like the special zombies in this map, the lumberjack zombies, are kind of pointless. They don't behave much differently than the regular zombies. They just kind of have more health and they're not affected by some of the traps, but that's it. They're just reskins of regular zombies in the game. And the second thing is the introduction of the slasher. The slasher is basically supposed to be the boss zombie of this map, and they've done a really good job with him. He's fast, he can teleport, and he can red screen you in an instant. He's very intimidating, and you can tell the designers made him that way on purpose because this was supposed to be Infinity Ward's take on a horror-themed zombies map. But the problem is, the only time he ever shows up is when you go into rave mode past round 10. And the only reason why you would go into rave mode is to get the crossbows, and you can do that before round 10. And after you get the crossbows, there's pretty much no reason for you to want to go into rave mode. So you could play 50 rounds of this map without actually having to deal with the slasher or any boss zombie for that matter, which kind of goes against what they were going for. They advertised this map as this creepy environment, which was going to be a much more difficult map than Zombies in Spaceland. But since the setup process is easy and the wonder weapons are powerful and easy to obtain, and there's pretty much no boss zombie that shows up every now and then and challenges you, this map actually becomes a much easier map than Zombies in Spaceland. And it doesn't really make sense because Rave in the Redwoods is supposed to be much more horrifying than Zombies in Spaceland. So you have a horror-themed zombies map that fails to deliver the horror aspect, and this is pretty much the biggest gripe I have with Rave in the Redwoods, but other than that, it's a pretty solid map, and it comes in at number 4. Coming in at number 3, we have the attack of the radioactive thing. Now, I've been in the zombies community for a while now, so I kind of know that me putting this map above Rave in the Redwoods might be somewhat of an unpopular opinion, so I'm gonna do my best to try and explain why I rank this list the way I did. When this map first came out, I actually didn't like it at all, and over time it kinda grew on me for a variety of reasons, but mainly because I find this map quite replayable, and I will go into more details with regards to that in a bit. But for now, let's just talk about the attack of the radioactive thing. This was the 3rd DLC in the Infinite Warfare Zombie season. It was really underhyped because for some reason, Infinity Ward didn't release a trailer for it before its launch. Instead, we got a trailer after it was released, which was kind of pointless if you ask me. But regardless, we got this map, I played it, and I didn't really like it. And I feel like it might have been because I was fixated on doing the main Easter egg and I kind of overlooked some of the other features this map has to offer. For one thing, I really like the atmosphere and the vibe of this map. It's very unique when it comes to the setting and the environment. It's set in broad daylight, it's colorful, vibrant, and there's a beach. And that's something we had never really seen in Zombies before. When it comes to the setting, they decided to take a different approach than your usual dark, snowy town or some facility owned by some evil corporation and it all looks too gray. They did their own thing and decided to make make a zombies map in somewhere nice. It makes it easier for the players to want to come back to it because it's not depressing to look at, it just looks nice. When you're playing this map, as soon as you leave the beachside market, you're gonna see the most wide open training area you've ever seen. And not just that, it's a really good camping spot as well. You can stand right here and make sure you don't open the area behind you, and as long as you have a powerful LMG like the Mauler, you're gonna be able to get to 30s and maybe even 40s with ease. And it just feels fun because it has a very nice Derice catwalky feel to it. And just like Derice, you can do this with a bunch of friends as well, and it'll be pretty fun. The traditional buildable traps in this map are no more, but the game provides you with 4 new buildable traps. You can pick them up and use them, and after a while, they'll reappear on their respective tables. There's the seismic wave generator. It is pretty much what it sounds like. You set it down, it'll generate this seismic wave every couple of seconds and kills the zombies that are close to it. It's pretty effective since you can just grab it, get all the zombies nice and rounded up, set it down, and let it generate one wave to kill the entire horde, and pick it up and rinse and repeat. So you can pretty much use this device to go through entire rounds in the 40s without having to fire a single bullet or spend a single point. It does kind of take you longer if you do that, since you do have to wait for all the zombies to spawn in and then start training. The second trap is called the hypnosis device. This thing is pretty awesome as well. Once you set it down, it'll attract all the zombies and kills them all after a certain amount of time. It's pretty much a boombox, but you only build it once and it'll be at your disposal for the entirety of the game. Then we have the violet ray device. You can plant it, it'll give off this violet ray which kills any zombie that walks into it. And last but not the least, you have the mind controlling device. This thing is really badass. When you set it down, it'll create a circle around it, and any zombie that is within the radius will become a friendly zombie. This one is my favorite buildable trap in this map simply because it's just so much fun to have a whole bunch of friendly zombies. You can just kind of sit back and watch as the friendly zombies devour the other zombies, and it's almost as if you're watching a battle go down. It's a wonderful sight to see, especially since the friendly zombies don't fuck around at all. They're powerful and pretty good at killing the other ones. Now let's talk about the wonder weapon. It's called the Modular Atomic Disintegrator. It has 30 shots overall. The upgrade process is very simple. Before you upgrade it, it's kind of useless, but after you upgrade it, the weapon changes significantly. It'll have 30 shots, but now you can crank it up and do a charged shot, which will take 5 out of the 30 shots that you have. The regular non-charged shot also becomes slightly more powerful, but the most important change it goes through when you upgrade it is that now you can walk up to these green eggs, hold square, and refill your ammo. Given the fact that there are so many of these around the map, and after a few rounds, the ones you have already gotten ammo from will become available again to give you more ammo, I'd say this is the best quality of this weapon. Also, it's good to note that the big croc bosses are pretty much the biggest threat you'll ever face in this map. They can do a lot of damage, and they can flash you to momentarily distort your vision to make it so that you walk into a horde of zombies and go down instantly. And this wonder weapon makes short work of these guys. You don't even have to use the charged shot. You just use a regular shot at a short distance to one-shot kill them. To me, that is good game design. The map challenges you by putting a threat in front of you, but it doesn't deliberately try to screw you over, and it provides you with something to use to deal with the threat. This is not by any means an overpowered wonder weapon, but you don't really need an overpowered wonder weapon because the map is so wide open. This creates a nice sense of balance in this map. If the map you're playing is very close quarter and it doesn't have a lot of training areas, the game should at least give you somewhat of a powerful wonder weapon, but if there are many wide open areas in the map and it's easy to train, then a powerful wonder weapon is not needed. As a matter of fact, a powerful wonder weapon would kind of make the game too easy and unbalanced. There are a few small issues in this map. One is that opening Pack-a-Punch can sometimes be annoying because Elvira will take too long to just get to the portal and do her thing to open it up, and that can sometimes be a little frustrating. Another thing is the layout of the map is a little problematic and it messes with the flow of the game. So let me explain what I mean by that. When you're first trying to set up, there are a certain amount of objectives that you have in mind that you need to complete. This is true in every zombies game you will ever play. Let's say you need to do 5 objectives to get completely set up. You leave the spawn room, you complete objective 1, 1, get to objective 2, complete it, get to objective 3, complete it, and so on and so forth. If the time it takes you to get from one objective to another stays short and consistent and it stays the same, then the map will have a very nice flow to it. For example, let's say I need to collect something or build something for my first objective, and then it takes me 30 seconds to get to where I need to be to complete the second objective. Again, I might have to build or collect something to complete objective 2. Then if it takes me another 30 seconds to get to the third objective, that means that the map has a good flow. Another way you can make it so that the map flows well is if the time between completing objectives doesn't stay the same, instead it slowly and gradually increases after a certain objective, and that would be okay too. What you don't want is a sudden jump in the amount of time it takes for you to go from one objective to another, because that disrupts the flow of the map and it takes you out of the experience. If it takes you 30 seconds to go from 1 to 2 and then it takes you 4 minutes to go from 2 to 3, that's not gonna feel very good because you're doing things at a certain pace, and all of a sudden the game forces you to stop or wait or walk a very long distance, and it makes the game not so replayable. It's gonna make that last objective feel more like a fetch quest than anything. Let me give you a real example. Let's look at Origins, one of the most popular zombies maps of all time. A map with that size should not flow as well as it actually does, and it makes you wonder why it's so popular, because the general consensus in the zombies community is that people don't like objectives or collecting things or building things, but Origins makes you do that more than most other maps. Then how come people actually like it despite it being littered with collectibles and buildable items and objectives? Well, for one thing, the map is divided into 6 sections, which are the 6 generators, and in every single section of the map there is something to collect and there's something to do, and you don't have to do any of them in any specific order. For example, in generator 1, which is the spawn room, you collect the shovel and a part of the Maxis drone, and then you turn on generator 1, buy quick revive, maybe get some points and move on. Then you make your way to generator 2. As you can tell, the walking distance between generator 1 and generator 2 is not that long. Once you get to generator 2, you can collect the blue disc, the stone, maybe the shield part, then you adjust the knob on the electrical box, turn on generator 2, and then move on from there. Now you have a choice. You can either go to generator 3 to keep the distance between objectives short and consistent, or you can choose to walk the longer distance until your next objective and go to no man's land, and even then, the distance only increases by a small amount, and it's very hard to feel it in game because it's not a sudden jump and it doesn't mess with the flow. Now most likely you're either gonna complete one of the soul boxes for the Thunder Fist, or you're gonna go to generator 4 and collect the purple disc, turn on the generator and buy Juggernaut. And from there you go to generator 6 and notice how the distance between generator 6 and generator 4 is almost the same as the distance between generator 6 and generator 5, because most likely right after you do the objectives in generator 6, you're gonna complete the objectives in generator 5. This is one of the best qualities of Origins. It manages to give you so much to do without it feeling like a chore. And not only that, the main Easter egg of this map also preserves the same formula all the way to pretty much very close to the end. And to give you an example of something that disrupts the flow and is not good, we can think of one of the steps in the main Easter egg in the same map, Origins. This step is called Rain Fire. In this step, you kind of have to wait for the right robot foot, and it just revolves around RNG. This step is not designed very well because up until this point, you've been getting things done at a consistent rate, and now all of a sudden, you just have to stop. It's like hitting a brick wall all of a sudden, and this is probably one of the reasons why players and speedrunners in general don't really like this step, and it's probably why people didn't like how in Black Ops 3 Origins, Treyarch patched a certain step in the main Easter egg where you have to put every single staff in their respective robots, because you go from doing things at a rapid pace to having to wait for something to happen. Another example I can give you is the map Zetsubo no Shima. As you know, this is a map that wasn't very popular, but it is very similar to Origins in a sense that you still have to do a lot and collect a lot of items. But the difference is that the flow in this map is all over the place. It keeps jumping up and down, and it takes away from the replay value of the game. You move at a good pace, getting things done until you get to Lab A, and for you to be able to open up the bunker, you have to turn on the power in Lab B as well. So you go from Lab A to Lab B and then to the bunker, and the distance between Lab A and Lab B is longer than the distance between Lab B and the bunker. And this kind of thing keeps happening throughout the entire setup process, and it's the most noticeable mainly with the skulls. You grab one skull and you walk a short distance to the spawn room, complete a ritual, come back to the altar, put the skull back, grab another skull, and now you might have to walk all the way to the last part of the bunker underground, and there is nothing to do in between but walk. So you went from walking a short distance to a very long distance. This makes the process seem like a chore because the flow of the map keeps getting disrupted. I know I went a little too much in depth to try and explain that, but that's only because it's a very important thing in my opinion, and people don't really talk about it, or maybe they don't like a map because it doesn't flow well, but all they can tell is that they don't like the map, but they can't necessarily put their finger on why that is. And another reason why I tried so hard to explain this is because when I'm ranking maps, this plays a very big role in how I rank the maps. And I know some people might not care, but if you're gonna watch me rank these maps and talk about them, the least I can do is explain what I'm ranking them based off of. Okay, now getting back to the Attack of the Radioactive thing, one of the problems I have with it is that it doesn't flow very well. When you're going through the setup process, everything is fine until you leave the beachside market and your next objective is to turn on the power. So you leave the beachside market and you have to walk a very long distance to get to the beach, pick up the handle, and now you have to walk all the way back to spawn to turn on the power. It feels kind of weird, and after you turn on the power, you have to grab the spellbook and go to Elvira, and since all the teleporters have to be manually and individually turned on, you have to walk yet another longer distance to get to Elvira. They should have made it so that as soon as you turn on the power, the teleporters would become fully functional. This is a large map and it's kind of like a big circle, and even after you turn on the teleporters, they don't really serve as a good transportation system, and this is the kind of map that desperately needs an efficient transportation system. There are only 4 teleporters and they have a cooldown time as well, so sometimes you end up having to wait for them to cool down, or you end up wasting too much time walking from point A to point B. And actually, this map is not too bad in terms of its flow, but it still has issues in that area. Before I move on to the number 2 spot, let me clear something up. Some of you might think to yourself right now that, well, the Final Reich and Raven the Redwoods don't have that problem, so they shouldn't have been lower on this list. Well, they actually do have that problem, and sometimes worse than the Attack of the Radioactive thing. In the Final Reich, there's a step where you have to kill zombies in a red circle to get the Tesla gun. At first, the circle moves at a consistent pace and you're killing zombies in it, but once it's done, it takes way too long to just give you the piece. And only after you pick up the piece, it'll start moving towards the morgue. And it moves kind of slowly too, and you can't kill zombies in it unless it's very close to the morgue. And this is actually not too bad considering that you could just do 2 out of the 3 buttons to open up Pack-a-Punch while the red circle is moving. But even after you do that, you still end up having to just wait for the red circle to get to where you want it to be, but it's still not too bad. The main reason I put the Final Reich at number 5 is mostly due to its lack of content. When it comes to Raven the Redwoods, however, you will probably experience the biggest disruption of flow ever in the form of a boat ride to Pack-a-Punch. It seems like the developers were trying to create a sense of eeriness by putting you on a boat with nothing else to do, so that you kind of have to look around, appreciate the environment they created, and maybe look at the moon and just kind of take it all in. The problem is that after the first or the second time, this boat ride becomes really long and boring. And some people might say, well, Garrosh Krovi has a similar mechanic with how you ride the dragon to get to Pack-a-Punch. Yes, but in Garrosh Krovi, it's not as long and it's nowhere near as boring. It's almost as if Treyarch kind of knew that if they had to make the player completely stop playing for less than a minute, then they should probably at least make it as entertaining as they possibly can by giving you a cutscene of the dragon taking off, flying around in a city in the middle of a war, dodging grenades and other things. So you don't really feel it that much because you're too busy watching the cutscene. It serves as the perfect distraction. In the case of Raven the Redwoods, it's just all too boring and it takes takes you out of the experience and makes you tired, and it takes away from the replay value of the map. In the case of Attack of the Radioactive Thing, it is a good enough map that this flaw is very easily noticeable because the map's other flaws are not too much in your face, so that's why the Attack of the Radioactive Thing comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2, we have Zombies in Spaceland. Zombies in Spaceland is the on-disc map for Infinite Warfare Zombies, and I gotta say this map was so good that for the rest of the DLC season, Infinity Ward still could not top their very first creation. The layout of the map is well done, the Pack-a-Punch portal is right in the middle of the map, and the map diverges into 4 sections from there. Each of the sections have their own power switch teleporter, they each have their own traps, and they even have their own wonder weapons. So every single section stands out. They each have their own identity. The traps in each section are very unique and very efficient. My most favorite trap in this map is the velocity trap. This thing is just a beast, and not only that, it's right next to this wide open area, so it makes it really satisfying to train a full horde of zombies and just run them through this trap. And the fact that the trap has a super short cooldown time and it only costs 750 points makes it all the more convenient. The wonder weapons in this map are really good at killing zombies, and they're pretty good at killing brutes as well. Each of them have their own unique way of killing the zombies, and everybody has their own preference, and mine is definitely the head cutter. One thing I like to praise this map for is that it's packed full of content. They did a really good job at giving you so many different things to play with. It makes this map seem a lot more exciting than, say, a map like the Final Reich, for example. In this map, you have a lot at your disposal. Let's start with the buildable traps. They're a nice and welcome addition that serve as an alternative way of killing zombies. These traps make the map more replayable because there are so many different traps, and it doesn't take too long for the game to reward you with a coin, so you're constantly using them. They're actually very practical and effective. You also have a secondary current system in the form of a ticket system. Earning tickets in this game is not hard at all, and this is a very good thing because when you introduce something like this to the game, it's very important that it doesn't constantly become a grind, because then you're kind of running the risk of potentially getting the player tired and wearing them out. You can earn tickets by completing the challenges that Neil the robot gives you, and if you kill a zombie with a backpack, sometimes they drop tickets. You can also use traps, and you get 1 ticket for every kill. And most importantly, there are various games throughout the map that you can play and earn tickets with depending on how well you do. And you can use these tickets to buy a variety of different things. You can get the transponder, the portal generator, the Armageddon, the black hole grenade, the rewind grenade, and the repulsor, which all serve their own specific purpose and help you in some way. You can also buy an arcane core attachment for your weapon, and if you have this attachment, you can then get access to the elemental effects. Depending on which part of the map you're on, you can earn an elemental effect for your weapon with the arcane core attachment. If you're in the Kepler system, you can get the fire elemental effect. If you're in the Astrocade, you can get this green laser elemental effect. If you're in Journey into Space, you can have the electricity effect, and last but not the least, if you're in Polar Peaks, you can have the wind elemental effect. And this one is the best one in my opinion. But it doesn't end there. If you get all 4 effects, you can then get the exquisite elemental effect. And if you have the Sentinel variant for the Mauler and put the exquisite core on it, the resulting combination is one of the deadliest and one of the most fun weapons in Infinite Warfare Zombies. You can also use your tickets to refill your ammo, refill your grenades, or even buy cryo grenades. And these grenades are really good. They'll freeze the zombies and they become insta-kills. You get 2 per round and they're replenished every round. You can also use your tickets to buy the Forge Freeze Wonder Weapon. Now, unfortunately, this Wonder Weapon is absolutely terrible. It's not effective in the slightest. Even after you Pack-a-Punch it, this thing is still pretty useless. But other than that minor setback, Zombies in Spaceland is a really good map, and it comes in at number 2. Coming in at number 1, we have the Shadowed Throne. This is the second DLC for World War II Zombies. I really like this map. The layout is fantastic. No matter where you are on the map or where in the map you want to go to, it doesn't take you too long to go from one point to another. And that is a task that is not easy to accomplish, considering the fact that this is a large map and it doesn't have a transportation system. So you have this perfect balance of horizontal and vertical expansion. Let's talk about one of the biggest strengths of this map, the environment. The atmosphere in this map is masterfully done. The developers in Sledgehammer Studios studios decided to no longer rely on cheap and annoying random jump scares to try and implement an element of horror. You're in a city that has been torn down by war and destruction. If you go back and look at history, you'll realize that nothing is truly scarier and darker than war. And what they did with this map is to combine war with zombies to tell a horrifying story, and it works. And it's not just the way the map looks, it's the perfect combination of visuals and audio that makes you feel a certain way. In between round transitions when nothing is going on, if you just kind of listen and not do anything else, you hear women and children screaming, you hear men shouting in the distance, and sometimes as soon as you enter an area in the map, you start hearing gunshots and screams, and as you're wondering what is actually going on, you see a zombie killing a soldier and you'll probably try to save him, but it'll have been too late. This is the map where Sledgehammer finally managed to capture the essence of horror by not just trying to scare you, but to make you feel the sense of dread, and it was all done beautifully. Now let's talk about some of the gameplay aspects of this map. The Shadowed Throne was a huge improvement compared to the Darkest Shore, mostly in terms of content. This map does not lack content. For example, a very welcome addition in this map were the melee weapons. You have the trench knife, the pickaxe, and the bat. These weapons are each put in a different section of the map. They don't cost anything, you can just pick them up and start slaying zombies with them. But they're mostly used in the lower rounds to help you get some points. The highlight of this map is actually the upgraded counterparts to these weapons. You have the Dancer's Dagger, the Nazi Axe, and the Smuggler's Bat. They each have their own special unique abilities. For the Dancer's Dagger, as long as you're not getting hit and taking any damage, you can do a heavy melee attack and it gives you 1 armor back. This feature is a wonderful addition because so many people in the past have complained about how many jolts they had to spend on just buying armor in some of the later rounds. And what this weapon does is completely solve that problem, which makes it a very effective weapon overall. With the Nazi Axe, you can kind of sprint faster by running and holding the attack button. And if you do a heavy melee attack on a zombie, it generates this wave of energy that blasts and stun the other zombies around you. And in the case of the Smuggler's Bat, there's no heavy melee attack, but you can press L2 and that'll shoot this ray of Geistcraft energy that do moderate damage to zombies. Barbarossa's blade is also making a return in this map, and this blade, if utilized correctly, can be very deadly because it's the only melee weapon in the map that can continuously kill multiple zombies at a time in some of the later rounds, so it's very useful. Some of the side Easter eggs they implemented in the map are also very fun, the most prominent being the Hangman Easter egg. You can play a game of Hangman and get different power-ups, jack-in-the-boxes, and even the wonder weapons from the 2 previous maps being the Tesla gun and the Ripsaw. There's also the hat Easter egg and the classic PPSH Easter egg, which are also fun to do. And last but not the least, there is the jump scare Easter egg. I'm not gonna lie, the first time I did this, it did scare the crap out of me. So unlike all the other random jump scares we used to have in this game, this particular jump scare got it right and did what it was supposed to do, which was to scare the living crap out of me. And I'm gonna have to praise this map for introducing a new zombie type that's not necessarily too obnoxious or too irritating. And that would be the Sizzlers. They look creepy and they sound creepy, which is not something I can necessarily say about the other zombie types in the game. The Sizzlers are for the most part a balanced enemy. They can run much faster than you, but the developers made sure that when they do spawn in, you can absolutely hear them 100% of the time. So no matter where you are in the map, as soon as a Sizzler spawns in, you will hear their scream. I usually don't like it when there's a certain enemy type that runs faster than you do, hence why I didn't really like the Darkest Shore, but the Sizzlers are the better and improved version of the Moishlers in the Darkest Shore. Because yes, they run faster than you, but they're not bullet sponges, and they don't hide in the fog, and they don't take 2 armors when they hit you. So Sledgehammer managed to somehow introduce another zombie type to their already overcrowded roster of different zombie types and have it not be extremely annoying, and I feel like that's a bit of an accomplishment in an of itself. Now let's talk about the wonder weapon in this map, which is called the Wonder Bus. Honestly, I don't like this weapon. I don't hate it, but it just serves as just a novelty and nothing more. But then again, World War II Zombies hasn't exactly had the greatest wonder weapons. They're all just kind of okay. And since you can obtain the wonder weapons from the previous maps anyway, I don't really care that much about the Wonder Bus, and I don't really care if it sucks, because all the other good things in this map kind of overshadow the flaws of its wonder weapon. Overall, the Shadowed Throne is my favorite non-Treyarch Zombies map of all time, and it comes in at number 1. That is gonna do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments section down below what your favorite non-Treyarch Zombies maps are. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know, as I always enjoy talking to you guys about zombies. If you liked the video, a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated, and until next time, peace.